Welcome to the Pathways to Wellbeing podcast, where we explore holistic approaches to health, wellness, and personal growth. My name is Sophia Soul, the co-creator of Sacred You. On today's episode, we will be exploring the fascinating world of energy and how it impacts our lives. Together with our guest, Gabrielle Pimstone, we will dive deep into understanding energy blocks, those invisible barriers that can hold us back and sabotage our progress. We will talk about how these blocks form, how they can keep us stuck, and most importantly, how we can clear them to experience transformation. I really do hope you enjoy the conversation for today. And if you would like to support Sacred You, please hit that subscribe button. Give us a like. And to find out more about everything that Sacred You offers, check us out at www.sacredyou, that's the letter U, .love. Sacred You is your spiritual family, just one click away. So let's get started on today's conversation. With me today on our podcast is the beautiful Gabrielle from Sydney. Welcome, Gabrielle, to the Pathways to Wellbeing podcast.
Thank you so much. It's lovely to be here. Thanks for having me, Sophia.
I'm really excited because we're talking all about energy and how energy blocks or how energy can hold us back. And it's very, as we were saying before, the silent saboteur that just stops us.
Yeah.
So I'd love to know, Gabrielle, from you, first of all, tell us how you got into this energetic field.
That's a lovely question. I've worked in organizational psychology for, I think it was about 25 years. At the time that it was just after COVID, I was in actually it was during COVID, I was in a job that I hated. I was stuck. I was at one of those junctures in life, and I was looking for something else. And none of the typical psychological tools and techniques that I've been using for decades to get me out of, dips were working. They just weren't working anymore. And I was looking for a different modality. I actually took myself off on a walk on a Sunday morning to try and clear my head. And I listened to a podcast. And on the podcast, this woman was talking about how she'd lived her entire life just in a cycle of anxiety and trepidation, always waiting for the other shoe to fall. And that was my story. And I decided there and then that I was 50 years old. It's time to get serious about my life. I actually resigned from my job the next day. And then a couple of weeks later, I was scrolling through Instagram, and there was one of those adverts that came up, and this guy was talking about a weekend workshop and all about energy. It was one of those free workshops, kind of a marketing tool. I attended, and the rest is history, because I realized in attending that session and being in the presence of this person who landed up becoming my teacher, that energy is everything. That I'd been working in the field of thoughts, beliefs, stories, self-talk, overwhelming emotions. That was my world for a quarter of a century. And I realized when I attended this workshop, all of that is just frequency. And so energy is actually the foundation for all the limiting beliefs that we have, all the dysfunctional behavior patterns that we have. And it got me really interested. And I signed up at the end of that weekend, and I studied for 18 months to become an energy master. And I guess that's how it began. Most people's stories begin when they hit rock bottom, and they're in one of those moments in life where you really just need something different to take you forward. That's how I got into it.
It's incredible, isn't it? Thank you for sharing that. And I agree. When a lot of people's stories, real life happens when they hit that pivotal point of being rock bottom, and there's only one way to go, and that's up. And something in the universe guides us to our path that we're supposed to be on for the next step, the next journey, the next chapter. So thank you.
Interesting. No, it's interesting because I wasn't thinking of it at the time, but I worked with an astrologer for about 8 years. I consulted with him once a year. He's based in America. And I remember the very first session I had with him, he said, 2024 is going to be your Dharma period, and it's going to last for 20 years. And you're going to, in the years before that, you're going to be building up to it. So yeah, I guess that I'm in the right place at the right time.
You are. Welcome to the rest of your life.
Exactly.
As they would say. Which
exactly.
Thank you so much for sharing it.
You're welcome.
I'd like to know, Gabrielle, for you, what do you think, or in your experience, what is the biggest hidden energy block that is affecting people?
Yeah, there's so many. Maybe we can start by just explaining how I define an energy block, what that is, and then I can get into some of the common energy blocks. I think we can take a look because they often sit in our chakras. So I can talk a little bit about the common ones in each of the chakras. But really, the way that I see it is that we all have experiences in our childhood, sometimes in gestation. Sometimes experiences are passed down from generation to generation. That's the intergenerational trauma. And really, when we have those experiences, or when we get those experiences, unless we transmute, the energy doesn't go anywhere. So you can't destroy energy, you can only transmute it. And if you're not doing that and you're not clearing or transmuting it, what happens is the energy sits. It usually starts in your energetic body. And then over time, you have more and more experiences, and that residue of energy starts to grow and compound. And it typically starts in your auric field. Then when it grows bigger, they move into your chakras. And when they really stuck, they can manifest in your physical body. So they become this invisible barrier that we were talking about before we started this, because it is invisible, energy is invisible, and this low vibrational stuck energetic block is sitting somewhere in your energetic body. And so that's how I see it. And the way that I work with energy blocks is through the chakra system. And typically, you'll find people manifest blocks in all of the chakras. So if you think about the root chakra, which is all about our survival and having our basic needs met, I would say probably the most common block there is an inability to manifest money. People who've got blocks, money blocks, that would be a typical one that sits there. When it comes to the root chakra, the sacral chakra, which is all about your emotions and creativity, you will find that often people with a block in the sacral chakra either have emotional disconnection or they have an over influx of intense emotions. I had a block there, and I had perpetual anxiety. So that would be an example. And a lot of people come to me with chronic anxiety. Another really common block can be found in the solar plexus, which is the seat of your yourself, your power, and your authority, how you step into your true sense of self. And a lot of people with blocks there are unable to take action. There's a procrastination block. That's a really typical block that sits in the solar plexus. And then, of course, the heart chakra is a very common area where people have energetic blocks, because that relates to your relationship to yourself and to others. And so what I see very commonly is self-sabotage. That will come from an energetic block, often in the heart chakra. And then if your block's in relation to relating to other people, I often find people come to me because they have difficulty in relationships. So that might be ongoing conflict, disruption in relationships, an inability to hold on to relationships. That stuff is very common over there. And an incredibly common block can also be found in the throat chakra. I work a lot with women. And the block there, I'd say that's the most prevalent, is the inability to speak up. Very common. Can't find your voice and express your truth. So yeah, those are some of the most common blocks that I work with. In the higher chakras, are typically there are blocks there, but what I'm often working with is the day-to-day stuff, which really I find manifests from the throat downwards.
Wow. Isn't that
Yeah.
very interesting?
Yeah.
And yes, and I've heard of how our chakras are quite often hold energetic blocks and things like that.
They do. Yeah.
Does or can past traumas contribute to our energy blocks around our chakras?
They actually create them. I would say they more than contribute, they create them. So what will happen is something happens. Let's keep it a childhood because that's easier for people to understand. But we all go through stuff in our childhood. To a smaller or lesser degree, we experience a sense of trauma. In my own life, I had a major trauma. When I was 9, my father passed away and he had been sick for 4 years. So I had this really big trauma, and that created a sense of limiting belief, overwhelming emotions. That anxiety germinated there. And the energy around that experience of my father dying and then having died created this excess of stuck energy. Now, that's an example of a big trauma, but other people go through even being bullied on the playground is enough to create an energetic block somewhere, because you get pushed once, you get pushed again, you get bullied for the 3rd time, and it starts to grow and compound. So I would say trauma creates the blocks. And we all go through trauma, and therefore we all have energetic blocks, all of us.
Yes, yes. And I mean, it's a shame, but that is, as you said, part of life. And even, especially as children, but even growing up in adult life, we still experience traumas. And I love it how, talk about it, especially for women, but also for men too. But we, have a lot of energetic blocks around our throat because we don't have the voice or the confidence.
Yes.
What we want to.
Or we may have had, I've had a couple of clients in the past who've had big blocks here because they've had overbearing or domineering parents who their parents took up the space. So it was very difficult for them when they were growing up to find their voice for that reason. Or maybe you had like a disciplinarian as a parent and you were kept in your place. All those sorts of things create energy. And energy doesn't just disappear. It gets stored somewhere until we work with it and clear it. And if the issue is around know your place, children should be seen but not heard, all of that stuff, the block's going to be in your throat, typically.
So what do we do about it, Gabrielle? How can we unblock?
You can do it deeply, which is my practice, and you have to learn how to do it and work with energy. Not everyone wants to become an energy master, and so there are things that we can do in life that can help. I can't say that the best way to eradicate a block is to go in and work with it and release it, but if you're not going to go down that path, then there are things that are available to everybody that can help recalibrate our energy and raise our vibration. And one of the things, the easiest thing we can do is to spend time in nature. And we all have nature available to us. And there are different elemental energies in nature. There's earth energy, there's water energy, there's fire energy. I love fire energy because it transmutes, it alchemizes. So spending time in the sun is an example of, if you're feeling low vibration, go out into the sun for 5 minutes, absorb the rays, and you will feel lifted from that. For some people who are very scatty, spending time with their feet on the earth is very grounding. Spending time in water, swimming, consciously showering, using water to heal is very cleansing. So we can do all of that. It's all at our disposal. The only thing I would say is do it intentionally. So if you want to transmute energy and you're going into the sun, set an intention before you do it. I set the intention that I shift my vibration, or I raise my vibration, or I clear what is ready to be cleared in the highest good of all. That amplifies the healing as well.
It certainly doesn't, and especially, and like I said, water is incredible, or just even, I quite often go out and hug a tree.
Yes.
When I've been on tech for a few hours, it's I've got to get out into nature, stand in the sun, or just hug a tree.
Exactly, exactly. The other thing you can do is, if you get into a bath at night or a shower, and to set the intention before you're doing that, that the water cleanse you. It's, a lot of it happens, a lot of energy shifts by intention alone. Intention creates a vessel for where your energy goes. So getting into the shower at night, set the intention that the water is cleansing all the low vibrational energy that is stuck to you in the day, because we've got energetic cords and we're constantly picking up other people's energy. And so if you do that every day, you will start to feel a hell of a lot clearer, lighter within a few weeks. So there are things we can do that can help.
Thank you. And I'd love to know, Gabrielle, if you don't mind sharing, how has your life changed from being stuck in the corporate world as such to now? Can you give us any examples, any experiences?
Yes. Okay. So my biggest breakthrough in doing all of this work was that I was gripped by anxiety day in and day out. And that started from when I was a young child, from when my dad got sick and then left us. And then I chose a high-powered career that just added and exacerbated the anxiety. Now, there was a period of time where my anxiety just started to, I'd started to do energy work, and all the stuff started coming to the surface to be released. And I remember it was about a 3-week period. And I made a decision that I wasn't going to be afraid. I was going to lean into the process, and I was going to every day just immerse myself in releasing and transmuting this crippling anxiety. And it took about 3 weeks. And after about a week or so, I slept through the night, had a peaceful night's sleep. Then I regressed a bit. And then I had a full day where I didn't worry and I didn't have obsessive ruminations. And then that day turned into 3-4 days. And after about 3 weeks, I started noticing a difference in myself, and people started commenting. But that took immersion. That took absolute focus, dedication, commitment, sitting in the fire with my anxiety and just letting it come out and release. And so the biggest transformation, Sophia, is that I don't wake up with crippling anxiety anymore. I can feel anxious appropriately. And the difference, I would say, between where I was and where I currently am now is my anxiety was running the show in the past. I was anxiety. The minute I walked into a door, you would know this woman's anxious. And so you don't get that same feeling about me anymore. So there was been a really big transformation.
Congratulations. Like, seriously,
thank you.
Congratulations. It's wonderful to hear how you can overcome things that are holding you back.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. But it does take work and it does take commitment. And part of healing, as you would know, is you can take a few steps forward and then you can regress. It's not linear. Have a really bad day in the midst of all of this and think feeling worse than ever. But you're moving forward, and positive change often doesn't feel that positive in the beginning. It takes time to unfold. In my case, I realized that most people, it takes about a month. In about 28 days, you can make a big breakthrough if you throw conscious awareness and love at what it is you're trying to fix.
So what can people do if they want to go deeper than, the daily practices of grounding themselves or having a shower, and just to shift that energy? But what can people do if they really want to remove those deep blocks?
This is not a shameless pitch, but honestly, the best way to do it is to work with someone, either to do it for you or to teach you how to do it for yourself. I have a particular modality that I use, advanced sacred geometry. And it's a very powerful modality. And I teach people how to use it. I teach people, the simplest thing that I teach is how you clear energetic blocks. can get really advanced, which is how do you clear across your timeline and go back to gestation and past lives and the karmic grid and all of that good stuff. But you've got to get taught it. And it's a graduated process, because you've got to be able to house a particular amount of high vibrational frequency in order to heal and use the geometries that I teach. And if I just taught you now, or anyone off the street now, and started sharing stuff, it would be too much. It's a process that, you grow and you build up to, you increase your energetic capacity. So I would say if you really want to go deep, you probably need a facilitated process to remove and learn what it's all about.
Especially with the sacred geometry, which is a whole other conversation.
It's a whole conversation. I started, as I've already shared, got introduced to the world of energy and signed up for this program because I wanted to clear my own blocks. I just wanted to move on with my life. And in the process, I fell in love with sacred geometry. I didn't know what it was before I started. I didn't care what it was before I started. And it is the most magical and most potent tool we have at our disposal to clear, release, transmute our energetic frequency.
Amazing, isn't it?
It is. It really is.
And for everyone who is listening or watching today's session, today's episode, do reach out and connect with Gabrielle if you're definitely interested in shifting those deep blocks that are holding you back. And Gabrielle, I just want to go back a couple of things that you mentioned. We talked about trauma, especially in this life, that creates blocks. So you mentioned even like past lives and gestational trauma that will also impact us as well.
Yes, very much. I had a client, I'll talk about the gestational trauma as a start. This person came because they had blocks. They had a totally blocked heart chakra, and their relationships in life were very troubled. None of their children really had a relationship with them. They had several marriages, very stormy. And this particular person presented as very emotionally needy. If you met them, you would go, oh, that person's like, there are no boundaries here. I instantly felt like there was a need to, and I didn't do this, but they were wanting to external affirmation all the time from people, validation. There was an insatiable need for that. And when we worked together, I found out that they were actually an unplanned pregnancy. Now, their mother, they have two older siblings. Their mother wasn't planning on having any more kids and then fell pregnant with this person. And what actually happened was when they were in utero, their mother had the trauma. And the mother was working through accepting having another child, didn't want it initially. And so this person actually developed an energy, or absorbed the energy of not being wanted in the womb. And this colored their entire life. So that's an example of how it can start before we even born. If your mum has a trauma, or if you have in your mother's physical and energetic body, you're absorbing what she's going through. And that's exactly what happened to this individual, to this person. Interesting.
It's very interesting, isn't it? Very interesting. Imagining, I'm just sitting imagining, how what everyone in the world is carrying around, all these energetic blocks that we don't even know about. And this is the thing, how do people actually know that they've got energetic blocks?
That's a great question. They know that they've got a block, it's hidden, and they've got these patterns in their lives that they can't break. A pattern of relating to others, as was the case with this particular client. In my case, it was a pattern of constantly waiting for the other shoe to fall, just living my life in dread. Patterns. I've just worked with someone who has never been able to hold on to money, constantly in scarcity. So you have a pattern around a particular issue that you can't shake, can't work it out, that's how you know. So your life's on repeat in a particular area.
Yes, I think they call it Groundhog Day.
Groundhog Day. Yes.
But
that's
so
exactly
true.
right.
I mean, it's so true. And you realize that things are happening. Your life is a cycle. The same thing keeps happening.
Keeps happening.
With different people. But yes.
And exactly. And your feeling, the felt sense is like, I'm stuck. I don't know how to do this. I can't fix it. Like for a lot of people, they'll, like including myself, they'll go to therapy, they'll gain incredible insights about themselves, but they haven't released the energy. It's still there. And so the patterns are difficult to break until you release the energetic inception point of where the patterns began.
And you're able to find that out.
I'm able to, yes. I work intuitively, you know, and what I teach people is how to feel energy with your hands, but they're different spiritual senses. There's hands-on healing. You can now I can feel the energy in my hands. So if there's a block, I'll pick it up that way. But sometimes it's just clairsentience. You get a sense, you get drawn to a particular area of the energetic body or a different part of their timeline. Yeah, it's really working intuitively and getting your mind out of the way. That's the biggest barrier to get through when you're learning this stuff, because you can't understand how it works. We're not designed to understand fully. It's the fifth dimensional stuff. But so that the challenge is to really leave your mind at the door and to work intuitively. When you're in, and by intuitively feeling energy with your hands, going into your spiritual senses, what's your felt sense? I'm clairaudient, so sometimes you get messages through words, sound bites. Other people are clairvoyant, they get images, they see things. So all of that gets developed when you learn how to work with energy. It's a really important piece of the puzzle that you activate your spiritual gifts, because they become your radar and your GPS system when you're working on yourself or others.
Oh, sounds very powerful. Thank you so much for sharing that. And can you go into what happens on the other side if we don't clear our blocks? I'm assuming that then that leads to illness and manifestation of diseases and stuff. But is there anything else that happens when we don't do that?
It can lead to physical illness if the block is very big. Often it doesn't. Often it just sits in the energetic body. And what typically happens is you just don't resolve, you just don't move forward. You're stuck in molasses, and you may make a bit of progress, but the core issue stays the same, and you're not able to move on with your life. And so I guess what happens is you stay stuck. And yeah, there's a sense of just being stuck. And that's the sad part of it, because a lot of people go forward in their lives and on their deathbed haven't resolved so many of their core issues, and energy is the key to that.
And then they have to come back again,
and they've got to incarnate again.
Come back again to resolve those blocks.
Exactly.
But the unfortunate thing is they've forgotten all about it.
Exactly.
It could take numerous years to get to a stage where they can resolve
exactly.
things like that. So
yes,
thank you. And what about for you, Gabrielle? What's one of the most powerful lessons that you've experienced or that you've learned from working with energy for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've mentioned it, which is I spent years in psychology working with the mind, working with cognition, working with thoughts. And I was very cerebral. I still am. I remember my therapist saying to me, you don't need therapy. You need a spiritual process. You're too much in your head. The biggest wake-up call, the biggest thing I've learned is actually that your mind doesn't have to be on board for this modality to take effect. And in fact, it's more potent if your mind is just somewhere else. So that's been the biggest shift for me, is getting out of my mind and into my heart space, my spiritual senses and intuition. And I remember when I first started out, I was anxious, performance anxiety. How am I going to do this? What feedback am I going to give the person? And when I let go of all of that, and I just was in the process, when I was healing them, that's when stuff started to come to me. So that's been the biggest thing. She's really, the mind doesn't have to be on board.
And that is such a big lesson, isn't it?
It's a hugeness.
Even in just our daily lives, if we can get the mind out of the way,
Yes.
it would be a lot easier, but we tend to take control and overcomplicate things, and now it's like it's getting crazy. And I believe even with the advent of AI, which is really in one way designed to make our lives easier, it makes it all so much more complicated because there is so much more.
Yeah. And we're bombarded with so much, aren't we? So that's the challenge, is to create a clearing space in your mind where you can actually tune into a different intelligence, which is not, through books or podcasts per se, but is downloaded from a really special place.
Thank you for sharing that. And Gabrielle, can I ask you some more questions about you, some fun questions, like if your energy right now, if you don't mind sharing, if your energy right now could be a color, what color would it be? Because there are people who are able to see energy.
Yeah.
So what color is your energy?
I can't say I don't see color. I sense color, but I think my energy is orange, like peach. What do you see?
I don't see. Right now I'm seeing your beautiful. We're online. But what does peach represent to you?
Softening.
What about a superhero? What superhero or villain would your energy be?
I don't really know the names of superheroes, but I feel like I can stand in the posture, which is like a power pose. Who's the superhero? Is it Catwoman? I don't know. But probably Catwoman, because there's a bit of nimble, agile ability to scale walls, read into that, obstacles. Yeah, so probably Catwoman.
Yeah.
I love cats. I'm obsessed with cats.
There you go. It has to be cat because there's a reason for that.
Yes.
So thank you. Thank you so much. This has been really interesting, and I'd love to know more. I'd really love, and please come back. I would love to go into sacred geometry and then in another conversation. Absolutely.
Sounds great. Sounds awesome.
Before we finish up, is there anything else that you would like to share about this world of energy and how it keeps blocking us or stopping us or sabotaging our lives, and we did overcome it?
I mean, I sound like a broken record, but energy is everything. Our thoughts are energy. Our beliefs are energy. Our emotions, everything's got an energetic frequency, and it can either be the accelerator or the handbrake in life. And my plea for people is to really wake up to this and to really get back in the driver's seat. It's much easier than you think. And it's really available to all of us. So it's really just a heartfelt reiteration of the message that if you want to change your life really deeply, then go the energy route.
Thank you for sharing that. Another question has come up too. Why you sharing that? When you start to work on your energy and clear your energy, does that mean your life is easy and constantly flowing and everything, in inverted commas, good happens to you? Or do you, Gabrielle, still go through challenges? And how do you overcome them?
Yeah, so of course I go through challenges, but the core issue has released, which is like I do feel anxious, but I'm not living anxiety day in and day out. I don't think life, I don't promise that you go through this process, your life's going to be easy flow, because it's just, that's not realistic. And you resolve one issue, but you've got multiple things that you want to resolve. So the things that I say to people when they start with me is, what's the issue that if you resolve that one thing, it has tentacles in so many other sub issues, it's going to resolve a whole lot of other sub things, because then you get maximum bang for your buck. So no, of course not. Of course, and life happens. When you've been through this process, your energy elevates, your vibration you're vibrating at a higher level. So when setbacks happen or when challenges happen, which is inevitable, you don't dip for so long. In fact, sometimes the same things that would have thrown you off course, you're at a lower vibration, actually don't feel as disempowering. So I think what it does is it builds resilience and it builds perspective and clarity, and it allows you to manage the dips so much easier. So that's the promise. Promise is, I can't say life's not going to ever get bad for you, but what I can say is your capacity to deal with them will be so much more powerful because you're dealing with from a higher vibration. Your foundation has changed. You've elevated up. And so you're thinking more clearly, you are more optimistic, you are just, it's just a different place from which you are dealing with life challenges.
Thank you. Thank you ever so much. And Gabrielle, it has been an honor to talk to you. And for everyone who is watching or listening, do yourself a favor and reach out to Gabrielle, because life, we still, as you said, I do believe that we're still going to have challenges, because that's what part of life. Having challenges helps us grow.
Very much.
But it's how we're affected by those challenges and what we do about them makes a big thing. So thank you ever so much, Gabrielle, for coming on today's show.
Thank you for having me.
It's been a real great, and I look forward to connecting with you very soon.
Sounds great.
Wasn't that a wonderful conversation with Gabrielle? And isn't it amazing how energy blocks can affect us, but also the life-changing transformation that can happen when we clear our energy blocks? If you'd like to know more from Gabrielle, do click on the links below and reach out to her. And while you're at it, do us a favor and come and support Sacred You. Hit the subscribe button, like this episode, or even check us out at www.sacredyou, that's the letter U, .love for more valuable resources. Beautiful and wonderful day, and we will see you next time. Bye.